Welcome to On Sports, the battle for the Turnpike. I'm Chris Tsakonas.
And I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We've got a great show coming up as we get you set for the big New York Giants versus Philadelphia Eagles playoff game.
And we'll start with the Philadelphia Eagles. They've taken a major step this season, going from a 9-8 team that earned the final playoff spot in the NFC to the top team in the conference at 14-3.
They owe a lot of their success to quarterback Jalen Hurts. In his third season with the Eagles, he's thrown for a career-high 3,700 yards and 22 touchdowns. That production has earned him a 14-1 record as the Eagles starter.
Now Hurts looks to continue that strong run of play into a winner-go-home game against their bitter rivals up the Turnpike.
And I think regardless of what they've done, I think they've done it well. Whether they're playing man coverage, they do that well. Whether they're playing zone coverage, they play that well. So I think for us, it's just on us executing versus them. I think at this point in the season, I think that's what it's all about, just execution and just doing your job the best. So it's on both sides.
Hurts also alluded to the success from last year's team as a factor in the Eagles' success.
I think it's helpful for us to have all experienced that together as a team, and to have a lot of guys back, have a lot of guys that, like a Jason Kelsey decides to stay because he sees something in, what he's played with and the potential of what that could be. So, we have everything in front of us and, we're just taking it day by day, like I said, but there's a ton that we've endured and experienced and have gone through to be here and have this opportunity we have now. So we're gonna try and go out there and do what we've been doing.
For the New York Giants, last week's wild card upset over the Vikings was the latest in what's been a stunning turnaround this season. First-year head coach Brian Daboll has found success despite suffering from a string of injuries mid-season.
Star running back Saquon Barkley has had a renaissance year, rushing for a career-high 1,312 yards and 10 touchdowns this season. Despite the turnaround, he doesn't think the Giants are playing with house money in this game.
I don't really look at it that way. I don't think we look at it that way at all. We're here for a reason. You got to win football games to get into the playoffs. No one just invited. You got to get in, and we got in, and to make it to where you want to go, you got to win or you go home. And we did that the first round, and now we got another opportunity in the second round.
Here now to give us some insight on the game is WFAN Sports Radio host Danielle McCartan. Welcome to the show, Danielle.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So these two teams, of course, both being in the NFC East, they've already met twice. Eagles came away winners in both games. Yeah. What can we learn from the two games they've played already this year, looking into this one?
I don't know. Not much, I don't think, because, you look at the first matchup and the Giants got dominated. And you look at the second matchup and the Giants had a lot of their starters, on the bench. So I don't know if there's a lot to learn from especially that second game, other than the fact that while the Eagles were playing for the number one seed and the Giants were literally playing for nothing, the Giants really did hold their own. But I looked up a stat before coming on, and it said since the merger, which was 1970, 24 times the third time around scenario happened. And the sweeping team, in this case, the Eagles, has a 625 winning percentage. And if they're home, jumps up to even 684. So Giants have a really tall task cut out for them this weekend.
They absolutely do. And the Giants have already pulled off one upset in the wild card round against the Minnesota Vikings. What can you take away from that performance as we look towards this weekend?
How in college basketball, March Madness, the 12 seems to always want to upset the 5. Well, it's kind of the same in the past 5 seasons in the NFL. The 6 usually upsets the 3. I think the Vikings were the most fraudulent, 13-win team out there. How many of those wins came by one score? So takeaways from that game, Daniel Jones can move the offense. Daniel Jones has not thrown an interception since Thanksgiving, I think it is. He has not turned the ball over. Now that I say that, of course, he's going to throw 15 picks on Saturday night. But takeaways from that, the wide receivers, Saquon didn't really, get the ball too much in his hands as a runner. So that means the wide receivers really did step up for the Giants. And that, to me, has been, kind of the Achilles heel for this team, throughout the season. You've got Sterling Shepard as wide receiver 1, and he's 8th in the league in dropped passes, which is a lot. So the wide receiver stepped up. Isaiah Hodgins, I think, has 5 touchdowns in his past 6 games. So we'll see. The one thing coming out of that game, though, is Azeez Ojulari, the quad injury. He was limited to practice all week. He's officially listed as questionable. Second in the Giants defense in sacks. So that could be something to watch moving forward, whether he plays or not and how many snaps he has versus on being on the bench.
No matter what happens on Saturday, Daniel Jones played like an elite level quarterback last week. I mean, there is no question about that. So Giants fans have to really feel good about their future.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of callers that I've taken on the radio show. I mean, last week he had a 114 rating, which the highest is like, 145, 142 or something like that. So, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns last week in a wild card game. First playoff game he's ever had experience in ever. So a lot of callers on the fan, especially in the beginning, were like, this guy sucks, get him out of here. And I'm trying to be on the radio like, no, like, first of all, who else are you bringing in that would be better than Daniel Jones? And then you look at the player as a whole. I mean, the guy has overcome so much adversity, including this year with that receiving core, to get them where they are. He elevates the play of this team. He's finally got a coach that works for him, that believes in him. He's on his 3rd offensive system in 4 seasons. So he's obviously a smart guy. He's a big guy. He's a mobile quarterback. He's effective with his legs. He's got a big arm. So all of these things I tried to preach to the people on the fan, and finally they're seeing the light. I mean, I like being right, I do, but I'm glad for the quarterback. I'm happy for him. And I'm happy that the Giants are, finally relevant again. I mean, 365 days ago, you had Jake Fromm kneeling twice in the end zone to make more room for the punter. I was at that game and we were looking at each other like, wait, what just happened? So 365 days later, I think you got to be ecstatic about what's going on with this team.
The coaching staff has done a sensational job elevating this roster that has been in the toilet for years. What they have done is nothing short of magical.
I'm pretty good at like futures bets. I don't bet a lot, and when I do, it's not a lot of money. But I actually put $15, which is like a lot for me, on Brian Daboll to win Coach of the Year back in, I think it was August. I think I'd have to look, but I accidentally hit it twice, and then I woke up the next morning and I was like, you know what? I hit it twice. Might be destiny. I think Brian Daboll is a front runner. I might be biased because I have to bet on, but I think Brian Daboll is a front runner for NFL's Coach of the Year. I mean, look at the turnaround in the past year alone.
Absolutely. Chris?
Yeah, definitely. And looking at what the Eagles bring to the table in this game, their offenses run through quarterback Jalen Hurts, setting career highs in virtually every stat and really catapulting himself into the MVP conversation this year. What should Giants fans and just observers of this game as a whole be looking for out of him in this one?
Yeah, I came up with how, Giants keys to victories, Eagles keys to victory. And I mean, they have a high-flying, highfalutin, high-octane offense. I mean, it's the passing game and it's the running game. So, yes, Jalen Hurts, I mean, how hurt is he? That's something to keep an eye on. But the one thing, and it happened last week too against the Vikings, the Giants have this perennial, I guess that's the word, issue with guarding a tight end. And they still can't figure it out. TJ Hawkinson, 129 yards on 10 catches last week, which was like a lot. And then you've got Dallas Goedert for the Eagles. So I think Dallas Goedert's going to have a huge game for this team. I think even bigger than people are, reading into this game, because the Giants just can't seem to cover the tight end. And, it's going to be a dogfight. I mean, it's going to be, in my opinion, a ground game. These two teams are among the worst in the league, both of them defense-wise, of guarding against a running quarterback. So that's the Eagles and the Giants. So I think it's going to be a quick game. I'm on after it, so that's pretty good. But it's going to be a quick game. It's going to be a one of those ones where it's a ground and pound game, control the clock, and whoever controls this clock is going to win this game, whether that be Saquon and Daniel Jones or whether that be Jalen Hurts and their slew of running backs 1 through 3 on that depth chart.
Okay, Danielle, you got to give us a prediction.
Oh, I'm conflicted because I run these mathematical models and I'm a stat person. So the math is telling me Eagles 28, Giants 21 is what it's telling me. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh man, like I can't pick the Eagles. So I looked at special teams. The Giants have the better kicker in 3 facets of the game: field goal percentage, percentage over 50 yards and longest field goal in this season. So I'm taking the Giants by a field goal. The mathematical models can't measure heart. The Giants are doing it our way. Giants 27, Eagles 24.
Wow, what a prediction. Well, that'll make for a very happy show after the New York Giants postgame show on WFAN. So here's to that happening.
I hope so, because I don't know if I could. It's either going to be a celebratory show or I'm going to play the role of psychologist kind of show. But either way, I'm prepared for both of them.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to this one. Hey, Danielle, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, guys, thank you. It's fun, as always.
Thanks, Danielle. Well, Roman Oben has had a storied NFL career. The former New York Giant went on to win a Super Bowl championship, beating the Eagles while on that run with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2002.
And Robin is here with us now to give us some insight on the game from the perspective of someone who has played the game. So, Roman, I really appreciate you coming on, and thanks for spending the time.
No, my pleasure. Pleasure to be on, and it's exciting to, as a former player, to see the Giants be playing relevant football in January. And it's definitely been a tough stretch for a decade. And you guys earlier talked about, Daniel Jones and, 3 offensive coordinators, in 4 years, which is tough. And I remember Washington quarterback Jason Campbell going through that. And that was always a discussion about, you put this guy in one system, he's going to continue to get better. So as an offensive lineman, you want to see offensive consistency, cohesion, and you want to see good play offensively, and you want to see confidence. And so that's something that we saw last week with the win in Minnesota.
Well, Roman, you played in so many big games during your career, like I said, including a championship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As a player, what was your mindset heading into these high-stakes matchups?
Well, I think when you look at winning a playoff game on the road, that gives you so much confidence. And as a player, you say, if you could play your best 3 weeks of football after the holidays, that means you're still playing in January in the playoffs and you're getting ready for a Super Bowl. So I think the mindset goes, one, every play is important. Every tip ball, everything that bad can happen, you just don't want it to happen. As an offensive lineman, you don't want to give up a sack on the road and the crowd noise and all those things. But I think you just narrow in and focus, because it's like Monday Night Football times 10. Everyone's watching, from your high school coach to everyone in between, your old neighborhood, and you just want to do well, and you don't want to let the team down. So, and again, the ramifications of moving on to the next week, one step closer to the Super Bowl, all those things are always important.
So having been on that run as a player with Tampa Bay, how did that change your perspective from a player's perspective on teams making deep playoff runs?
Well, we had a first round bye, and so we had to play well in that first game. And that's when the Giants lost to the 49ers in 2002. You remember that? And then they came to Tampa. The 49ers came to Tampa. We beat them. And then obviously the next week was the championship game. I think I was lucky enough to say I played in the last game at the Vet, and we closed that game down in the first game the next year at the Lincoln Financial Field of Monday Night Football. So it just gives you the perspective to appreciate the journey, because not everyone gets through that journey. Not everyone gets to win a Super Bowl. Not everyone gets to go to the playoffs. And when you talk about a 10-year stretch where the Giants, haven't been to the playoffs, imagine careers that have started and ended with it for a Giants player who actually never got to January. So you really appreciate the journey and getting that far.
Absolutely. Well, both of these teams are in the NFC East, and the Eagles are coming into this one as the heavy favorites, having beaten the Giants in both regular season matchups. From your experience, how hard is it to win 3 straight against the same team?
No, it's hard. I know some stats were mentioned earlier segment. I look at the 2007 team. You lose to Dallas opening night, then you lose again. You lose again at home, but the game that counted was the playoff game. So I think all the things that have been said, the pressures on the Eagles quarterback with the injury, got the dust off, played a couple weeks ago. But the pressure's on them to win because they're the target. And I don't know if they've been in that position. I would say Daniel Jones has been in that position. The Giants have been in that position. Having to change the culture, having to change the attitude. And like I said, when you win the playoff game on the road as a wild card team, you can beat anybody. And I think the Giants have put themselves in a position, again, playing the best football at the best time of the year, going into a familiar foe. They're not flying across the country by any means, or a 6-hour flight or anything, crazy just biologically. I mean, it's a regional game. It's like a North versus South kind of, when you look at New Jersey and South Jersey versus North Jersey with the Giants and the Eagles fans. But It's just an exciting matchup, and it's great for television. And I definitely think the Giants are prepared. It's no longer a 6-playing one. It's 2 teams playing each other, and who plays the best is going to be one step closer to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that battle for Jersey, the battle for the Turnpike, we like to call it, certainly an added factor, adding a little more juice to this one. While you were with the Giants, you had to play the Vikings in the wild card round, and Minnesota pulled that one out in overtime to advance in the playoffs. As an ex-Giant, how did it feel watching New York come up with the win against the Vikings this time?
It was great. I mean, I'll run into John Randall or some of those old Vikings guys back then, Chris Carter, and all we talk about is that '97 playoff game. But again, as a former Giant on that team, the emotions of, I mean, I couldn't even drive by Route 3 without getting emotional for like a month because we lost a playoff game in that stadium. Every time you drove by the stadium, you're like, man, we should still be playing. But again, I was happy to see them win last week. That time was difficult. That was my first year as a starter. And honestly, if you look at the records back then, that was the first year of like a 9-game stretch that the Giants never lost to the Eagles. So I'd never lost to the Eagles as a starter, never. And so I think from '97 to '01, the Giants played. And then obviously with the Coughlin years, it was 500 at the Link. And then it's been kind of lopsided. I think the Giants were only 6-15 with their only win at the Link was, I think, 10 years ago, 2013 or so. So I think it's good. Sometimes, the history and the stats are where they are, but the beauty is you wake up tomorrow morning and these players and this team is going to make their own history, despite what the stats say and what the records have been in that stadium or Giants versus Eagles. So I'm really looking forward to watching it for those reasons.
Roman, before we let you go, do you have a prediction you want to give?
I hate making predictions. I predict that whoever turns the ball over the least will be victorious. So everyone does a proverbial 24-17, score, but I just protect the football, don't turn it over, and win it in the fourth quarter. And I think the Giants are capable of doing that.
All right, Roman. Well, thank you so much for spending a few moments with us.
All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. Such a great perspective as a former player to just sort of give us that vantage point ahead of such a big game. It's always valuable.
Absolutely.
Well, with all the attention on the game up and down the Garden State, sports bars are gearing up for Saturday night.
One of them joins us now. Jim Filler is the owner of Dad's Bar and Grill in Lumberton, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hello. How's your day going?
Our day's going great. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So,
Dad's Bar and Grill is going to be the spot for the game. We have more than 40 televisions. We have 3 big screens, stadium-sized big screens, so it feels as if like you're at the game.
Love to hear it.
Yeah.
So just give us the quick overview. What are your plans for the game on Saturday night?
Definitely going to be here. Definitely going to be eating half off wings and horns. It's going to be all the way, and that special is going all the way to the Super Bowl.
Now, I'm shocked to see that somebody is in a Philly bar with a Daniel Jones jersey on. I don't know how many of those you're going to see on Saturday night. I mean, I don't know. What would the reaction be walking in with one of those?
I work here, but I always make the one bar a Giants bar.
Oh, okay.
And then I make all the Eagles fans go on the other side.
So you do have a good representation of New York Giants fans,
100%,
even all the way in
you
deep
would be
South Philly.
surprised.
All right.
At times we're outnumbered. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, this is sort of the rare combo. Of course, you guys had that Super Bowl run a few years back with the Eagles going all the way. But, this is unique in the sense that you've got this bitter divisional rivalry in a win-and-go-home NFL playoff game. So this has to be up there with some of the big games you've had at the bar over the years.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. This is the biggest we've ever had.
Food, beer, football. Nobody argues too bad.
In the best playoff rivalry of all time.
We're going to do shots for each team every time somebody scores or messes up.
Green tea shots when the Eagles score, and then blue Gatorade shots for when the Giants. Yeah.
All right, that's a lot of fun. What drink specials and food specials do you have going on besides the shots?
We're doing half off wings and horns. That's going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. And
half off ribs.
Half off ribs also.
The green tea shots for the Eagles, and then the blue Gatorades for the Giants.
I mean,
And
I'll
then
sign up for it.
we have entertainment. We're gonna have karaoke in one of the bars, and then in the other bar we're gonna have a DJ also. So it's gonna be a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on at once.
It sounds like you have a big place with all of these separate bars. How many
Yeah.
people can you fit in Dad's?
Around
Like 300, right?
350 people. We have 3 different bars, so you get 3 different rooms for 3 different vibes you can choose from.
The tiki bar is going to be neutral zone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we let you go, we have to ask all of our guests today, what is your prediction on this game?
Giants, 100%.
I'm doing it's gonna be the Eagles. We're gonna win 28-9.
That is completely ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
Eagles 28-9.
I'm going 27, 17.
Who wins?
What do you think?
Okay.
Hey, you can come down there for a comedy show as well with you two.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Oh yeah.
Got it. Go Giants.
Go Birds.
All right. Where can people find out more about Dad's? Where do we find you on the web?
On our website, dadsbarandgrill.com. Also, we're on all social media platforms. It's at Dad's Bar and Grill.
Well, we really appreciate you guys spending a few minutes with us. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm just hungry for ribs.
Yeah.
Like if we could just fast forward to that'll be good for me.
Exactly. But you know what? When a game is this high stress, I can't eat. I pace.
No.
I'm nervous. I don't know. Well, you're not a fan of either of these teams.
No,
so
I'm not.
You don't have like high stake.
I'm sitting in Jetland. We had a lot of high stake games this year,
Yeah.
though. So
Well-
I in a way, I can understand.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of being neutral, I'm not going to say who I'm a big fan of, but everyone knows who I'm absolutely rooting for. But I'm going to have a viewing party with family, and it's not fun though. These games are not fun because you're sweating the whole time. You're nervous. You're shaking, and we'll just see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, one thing is for sure: the entire Garden State, whether Giant fan, Eagle fan, Jet fan, on looking while the other two teams in the state are doing battle. It doesn't matter. Everyone's going to be locked into this game on a Saturday night, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And 2 high-level football teams playing some of their best football at the right time. I mean, does it get any better than that?
No, it doesn't. And you know what I thought is really cute? I'm going to be there. I'm not there, but I'm going to be watching from home. So many of us are, including the family members of the players, people like Dexter Lawrence. They don't want their family going to Philadelphia for this game.
Yeah. That was certainly one of the quotes from all the media availabilities this week that caught my attention, because he said it's going to be such an intense environment. They're going to be going back and forth, the Giant and the Eagle fans. So certainly that's going to be an interesting element as well. And never easy to get a win in that building, especially in the playoffs.
No, but you know who will be in the building? Eli Manning.
Oh.
Eli Manning said he vowed he would never step foot into that stadium again. But this is such a momentous occasion for his team. So he's going there in person to support.
Okay. I mean, if there's a game to break that vow, break that trend, I mean, this is it pretty much.
All right. Well, before we leave, Chris, prediction.
Okay. I feel like there's something different about this Giants team. I remember watching the last time they went on that deep run, ended up beating Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And in some ways it was very similar. They were the underdogs in a lot of the games they played, a similarly constructed team. I have a feeling the Giants pull this one out. I'm going to go 27-24 Giants, pulling out a tough one on the road.
All right. Well, I'm going to go the Roman Oben route and not give a prediction, but I will say whoever has the ball last wins the game.
Okay. I think that's a fair thing to say, given the way these two teams have played. So
yeah, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a shootout, but whoever has the ball in their hands in those last seconds, that'll do it for them.
Yeah, for sure. And that'll do it for us here on this special edition of On Sports. I'm Chris Tsakonas.
And I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. Maybe we'll see you back here next week.